Thanks for Patricia being here today. Patricia is our keynote speaker from a company called Let's Talk About Safety. Patricia, if you do not know Patrizia Cassaniti, you will be introduced to Patricia today. She's got a fantastic story to tell us about a very unique journey in regard to safety and an experience that Patricia and her family experienced back in 2019. Patricia, it's wonderful to see you. I hope you're keeping well. And how is COVID treating you and your family?
Oh, Gary, thanks for having me. It has been turmoil on my end. Obviously, my house is still broken, so it's sort of like trying to deal with staying at home. And pre-COVID, I'm always out, so I'm always trying to keep busy and getting myself organized to do things, and obviously be on site to do talks. And now I'm kind of stuck at home and memories everywhere, so it makes it harder to be at home, especially when you're trying to deal with grief and you know, everybody's on high alert, and it's quite disturbing, but you know, we get there slowly but surely. We get there. I try to keep as busy as I can.
Well, you certainly keep busy, Patricia. I do see you around the blocks. You amaze us where you pop up. But for the listeners that may or may not know about you and your story, would you be comfortable just giving us a little introduction, just so they know a little bit about Patricia and, of course, touched by Christopher?
Of course. So basically, my name's, you'll know, Patrizia Cassaniti. I started Let's Talk About Safety pretty much after my son passed away in a scaffold collapse. My son had just turned 18 and his name was Christopher. Most people do know Christopher by what happened. The incident was very public, and it happened at a job site in Macquarie Park where the scaffold collapsed on him and unfortunately killed him. So since he's passed away, I've been on a mission to bring awareness to safety, and the things like the major thing is complacency. So that's been my journey ever since Christopher's passed away.
And most sincerely, that must take a lot of energy and a lot of emotional energy on behalf of yourself and I, and not only myself, but I'm sure the industry stand really proud when you walk in the room.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Patricia, what do you see as probably the most obvious thing for you? Somebody that's been around construction, you mentioned to me that you've been around construction for quite some time in your life, and I think your father was even in the building industry. Where do you see this complacency thing that you talk about, and do you think it's sort of from an organisational level, or do you think it's the workers, you know, more individually?
It's at all levels. It's from the top right to the bottom. You know, complacency is a human thing. We're all complacent on a daily basis. We're all complacent on a daily basis. And unfortunately, we bring it to work as well. And when you work in a situation where there's danger around you all the time, people don't think about the complacency that can turn into a detrimental situation. When you go to work, we all go to work. It's a mundane thing we do every single day. We you know, arrive at work and we get stuck into our job. But unfortunately, there's certain things that may be happening in your life. Maybe you didn't sleep well or had a bad night, you know, new baby in the family. There's so many factors that where your workability changes. You know, our moods, there's everything is involved. We're humans. And when you do the mundane thing of every single day, you don't think about resetting and thinking about the next step. Complacency hits anybody. It doesn't have to be just the top where project management, you know, gives the orders. It also comes from the workers. It's what I'm trying to do is shift that complacency in every single worker by resetting every time they go to work and thinking about where are they at? What are they about to do during that day? Are there dangers involved? And assessing those risk factors on a daily basis, even though it gets done and it gets done through toolbox talks. But during a toolbox talks, that's another mundane thing. So, a safety officer will be sitting there in front of his workers saying, talking about the swims of the day, and somebody's wafting off somewhere else, or they're on their phone, or they're thinking about their coffee, and they miss certain things because in their mind, they are thinking, I've heard this yesterday.
Absolutely.
I know what I'm doing. I don't need you to tell me again. I just want to get on with my job. And, they got to realize that safety officers are there for a reason. They're there to deliver the news of the day of what's about to happen, swims, whatever it needs to be done. And people need to be attentive at all times, because when you're not, things will happen. Complacency will hit on cutting corners as well. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things that are involved with complacency.
And I think it'd be fair to say that you and I would both agree that the industry is a tough enough industry as it is. And then we throw
100%.
in, we throw in tight programs that the builders need to meet. We throw bunches of guys on building sites. COVID's probably a really good example at this point. We're all going to hopefully get back into construction, and there's going to be a lot of this catch up. And that worries me a little bit about, the push to get, to catch up on the many months that construction is losing. So with those factors, as well as the complacency part that you talk about, do you think that builders should really take, particularly now, an opportunity to step back and say, let's not just let the horse bolt here. Let's really, you talk about toolbox meetings are a great forum, but I agree with you. I think a lot of workers sit in a toolbox meeting and very quickly go, I've heard all this before. And that's where
nothing important. Yeah,
and it really resonated with you, with me, when we spoke the other day, and you said, it'd be really good to have conversations with workers as opposed to telling them what to do about safety. And in those conversations, hopefully picking up some really, I guess, intel about what's really good and what's not good on a project, that a worker says, hey, Gary, I can tell you now the scaffold isn't safe, or Gary, I can tell you the form workers
100%.
need to slow down, etc. That you would agree with that,
100%.
right?
I do. And the thing is, I've been posting the last few weeks, coming to when they've decided that construction's going back after the COVID lockdown. Firstly, I was surprised that they did lock it down. And now it's kind of given me anxiety, because every worker out there, believe it or not, I tend to be very connected to. And when I don't know, I have this sense that something's going to happen because of rush, getting jobs done. We need to catch up. And, one of my posts said, please, all project managers, slow down, talk to your workers, find out, because they've got to realize that they've come now from a lockdown where things could have changed in the household. The pressures could be different in the home. Mental health issues need to be looked at. Are you okay? Are you okay? Is everything okay with you? I know that, we've been stopped, but ease into the job and allow the workers to ease into it, and also give them that courage to be able to speak up, to say, look, something's going on over here, or I'm not feeling the best. The last 2 weeks that I've been at home, my mental health has declined and I need help. Allow the workers to do that. Do you know what I mean? Allow everybody, even project managers, when they've been stuck at home those 2 weeks, all they're thinking about is, oh my God, we've got to get back to work. And there's so much work to be done. How am I going to cope? Okay. Yeah. It doesn't matter where you are in your job. A project manager to the worker, to the cleaner of the site. We've all gone through mental health changes by being stuck at home, worried about our job, worried about our mortgages, how are we going to pay for things. So we need to ease into this, to back to work, the reset, and allow people to talk and not tell them what to do.
Absolutely. I think that's really sound advice.
Have conversations, sit with everybody. You know,
Yeah.
we're all in this together. We're all in this together. Nobody's different. No other job site is different to yours. Okay. And we need to give that chance for those workers to be able to speak up and say, I'm here to work because I need to work, but I'm also here and I'm not feeling the best. So I may need some time.
Yeah, I think that's really sound advice. And I really like your comment about, you know, talk with the workers and not tell them what to do constantly. Have it and listen. Let's listen to what they've got to say, because I think you rightly point out that this is a really interesting time in construction, and I don't think anybody going back to a construction site could well be 100%, because of all those things that you've suggested, that they're worried about their mortgage and their homeschooling and everything in between. So I think that's really changed. Yeah, I think that's
we need to respect that. We need to respect that as human beings. Okay, we're all humans, and we all have feelings, and we all have ways of dealing with things, and not everybody's the same. Not everybody's strong, and
Absolutely.
They could be in a situation where, but if a conversation gets started, then the worker could be in that position to have that courage to say, look, this is how I'm feeling. I'm okay to work. This is how I'm feeling. If I need to stop, I'll let you know.
Yeah,
but give them
absolutely.
that chance. Give them the chance.
Absolutely. Patricia, we also spoke recently, I guess, of some observations you've had with, say, the housing and the residential sector, where they don't have sophisticated safety systems or safety professionals in the business or the like. And can I ask you what are your observations there?
Well, every time I'm in the car, I'm obviously way more aware about safety than I was 3 years ago. After my son passed away, I'm in tune more with safety issues that we have around us. And unfortunately, residential kind of goes in the back burner. It's not mandated, and some tradies do the things that they shouldn't be doing. Unfortunately, they don't have the same protocols and safety protocols in place as your tier 1, 2, and 3 sites, where they have project managers, site officers, and safety officers on site to be able to make sure things are done correctly. When you do a residential construction, most of the time it's either a small builder or a homeowner who's taken on the project and doesn't quite understand the safety procedures. So a worker doesn't sit there and worry about, should I wear a harness because I'm going to get caught if I don't. So they'll just do it and take it upon themselves just to get the job done. Get on a roof, and the roof is probably wet because of dew or it's been raining, but they don't think about their own safety. And swims, I'm taking on my own residential project, and it's something that I want to see how trades take that on. You know what I mean? Because it is very different to your commercial construction sites.
And I think when we spoke the other day, we were talking about, this difference between, potentially the small tradies that are going, literally with a dog and a ute, turning up to, as you suggest, put a roof on a house, and at no fault of their own, they may have not been exposed to, the types of training that organisations can provide, and the typical safety awareness that we have, and all the things in between. And I find that when I've been fortunate enough to do some training for some of those guys in the residential sector, they're very, very willing 9 times out of 10 to really listen and learn, because it's all new to them. They're like, wow, we've never seen or heard this. And when you talk about safety legislation, they're like, wow, I didn't realise that any of this applied to me. So
it's true. I mean, I've been in a car and I've driven past a site and I'll see someone on the roof and they're not wearing a harness. And especially now, there's a lot of solar panels going on, being installed. And a lot of trades, there's sometimes 2 or 3 trades on top of a roof and none of them are wearing harnesses. And I kind of want to stop sometimes and think, what are you doing? Like, do you not realize what danger you're putting yourself in by not putting that harness and attaching yourself so you don't fall off that roof? If you're building a new roof, there's handrails around. Everything's being put in place, but when there's repairs and all that kind of stuff that needs to be done, those things don't happen. And it's that, the mentality is, I'll only be a sec. I'll only be a sec. It's fine. It won't take long. And I can't, for me, it's crazy. It is crazy. And some of the things I see, I think, oh my goodness, it needs to be mandated more. Obviously, the resources aren't there to be able to mandate, and there's not enough staff in safe work for them to go out to residential homes as well to check that things are going okay. It's up to the trade themselves.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. And I guess it's really tough for those smaller guys to firstly have the basic sort of understanding of safety and the others. But I know that when you talk about, let's talk about safety, and I know that you really encourage workers to speak up, right? Now, particularly those workers that could be working in an environment that is quite toxic, okay? It could be what we call a dodgy builder, somebody that's just cutting every corner to get work completed, and particularly not a nice place to work. Unfortunately, I've never had to work in that environment, but I know of environments where when we talk to the workers or there's an incident occurs, they say, yeah, well, it's been like it for months. And we say, well, why? Why has it been like it for months? Why didn't somebody speak up? And I just love the way that you're tapping into, I guess, the individual worker to say, it's okay to talk about it. And it's okay to say, I'm not working here today. This place isn't safe. And
Yeah. And look, I mean, when they are in that toxic environment, all they're thinking about is their mortgages, their debts, their bills. I have to work.
Correct.
Everybody has to go to work to earn a living. Okay, so to be that stigma of the inability to speak up because you're either going to be victimized or you're going to be shown the door and lose your job. People, that stigma just doesn't want to go away. Yeah. And it is being taught to our younger generation as well, because, they have to speak up. And my goal is to be in front of every single worker, obviously to deliver the story of Christopher and why it's so important to make your family the reason why you work safe every day.
Yeah.
We all have to go to work. We all have to earn a living, but no Australian should ever go to work and die. And Patricia, the only way to stop this is to stop not being able to speak up.
Absolutely. Patricia, if any of those dodgy builders happen to be listening today, and I don't say that to be funny, I say if anybody's listening and they know that they're running an organisation and safety isn't playing a key part of their business, what could you say to them right now?
Educate yourself. Educate yourself, because when industrial manslaughter comes into play in New South Wales, it's not going to be pretty when you start doing the wrong thing. The WHS law has already changed for reckless behaviour and negligent behaviour. So you don't actually physically have to injure someone or kill someone to be charged with a Category 1 offence. And that was brought in after Christopher died. Now, we all need to, especially project managers, builders, need to be constantly educated on laws, WHS laws, what we have available, and how to treat their workers. Unfortunately, workers will never say, well, you know, I have to change my job because it's just too hard. So they'll continue to work for someone that is toxic.
Yeah.
And I just hope that, you know, those builders that choose not to do the right thing also think about their own family. If you've had your business for 20 odd years and nothing has happened, don't ever think it's never going to happen to you, because one injury or one death can actually destroy your business. It'll destroy you. And you've worked all these years to build up your business, and then one incident that can happen within 3 minutes because of a 5-minute complacent decision that someone has made will destroy you. And they have families as well. They need to think about their families at home and what their life is going to be when there is a tragedy.
Absolutely.
Because they've got to go to bed. They've got to sleep at night.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. You're right, Patricia, that, you know, the ramifications for any sound business in terms of the sustainability of the business, let alone the, you know, the corporate responsibility and the moral obligation to look after people in general, they're huge. The ramifications are huge, and I'm not sure whether bigger fines or you know, the extending imprisonment for directors and the like is the answer. I don't know, but I certainly think where you're working at the moment in regard to talking to workers and giving them the confidence to speak up, I think that is that's where I see the biggest impact.
Well, that's where we need to change the culture.
Yeah,
it's part of that culture that we need to shift. We need to kind of wake up to ourselves to say, you know, this is my job. This is what keeps my bills at bay and my mortgage and feeds my family.
Absolutely.
But there's no reason to go. You need to go to work to live, not risk death to go to work. And that quote I use a lot. Somebody else said that quote and it stuck into my head, and it's so true. It is just so true. But you know, from the top to the bottom, we all need to take responsibility for what we do.
And Patricia, you know, with you doing the rounds, and I'm sure you're meeting, you know, thousands of people in the industry now, and would I be correct in saying that you feel a level of satisfaction by talking to these people and sharing your story about Christopher, hoping that you know, as you say, gets them to think about the level of complacency that people would be working around?
Yes. It's also my personal healing. I can't bring Christopher back, but what I can do in his honor is to make sure that I can save other lives. He didn't get that chance in life, but everybody else does, by just shifting that complacency in their mind, by just taking that responsibility to do the right thing, and the ability to speak up without fear.
Yeah.
And also, I just know that when I've spoken to someone, they do come back to me. And I have seen people say, my God, Patricia, what happened to your son happens on a daily basis. Like, we always take ties off our scaffold. We always overload the scaffold, not thinking of the ramifications, not thinking that that simple decision that we've done for so many years can actually be so detrimental.
Yeah.
You know, and unless someone has actually been in that situation or has witnessed an incident, safety will never be in the forefront of their mind. So what I bring with Let's Talk About Safety is that reality of what a tragedy looks like. So I show a video of the incident that people, they've seen snippets of on the news, but haven't seen the full picture. of exactly what has happened. So when I bring that into the workplace, a lot of people are gobsmacked by how bad the situation was. And it was only because of a 5-minute complacent decision that was made, and an incident happened within seconds and took my son for life.
Yeah.
Now, it's that realization that workers kind of sit back and go, oh, maybe I need to change the way I do things, because they need to sleep at night. You know, you don't want something like this to be happening to you, or even witness, because it will change your life.
Indeed. Your very powerful message in the workplace when you do your talks. For our listeners that may like to have a chat with you and see where you might be able to come and have a chat with either them or their work group, what's the best way for them to do that, Patrizia?
They can go onto my website, which is letstalkaboutsafety.com.au, or they can call me 0414 656 621, or email as well. The email is info@letstalkaboutsafety.com.au, and I can send them a proposal of what I do. And, you know, I do travel interstate as well, and I can send them a proposal via the email, and then make a booking, and I can be there. So it takes about an hour for my talk, but I do allow up to 3 hours at least to be on site for any workers to come back to me to discuss anything further, ask me questions, and all that. Wow,
terrific. Patrizia, on behalf of all of our listeners today, I'd really, really appreciate you coming on and having a chat with us. I hear nothing but terrific feedback about your talks in the industry, and I encourage any of our listeners that are considering having someone like yourself come into the business and I guess, you know, refocus and particularly during COVID, as we started out this conversation, this is a really interesting time for the industry, and I think any of our listeners out there thinking about it, please reach out to Patrizia. It'd be a great thing for you and your business to consider. And once again, I really appreciate your time. It's nice to see you again. And we will certainly keep in touch.
It's great to reset.
Yeah, indeed.
It's great to reset. And I mean, I've had great feedback from a lot of the places that have had me on their site, and they tend to rebook me to go to the other sites because it's just made such an impact to the workplace, to their own workplace, that they think, well, we need you to be at other sites. So thank you. And I do hope, because obviously my mission is to get in front of as many workers as I can to deliver my message and do that shift and make sure that people are shifting that complacency in their mindset and thinking about their families so that they can work safe every day, so they can go home to their families every day.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, Patrizia. It's been lovely to talk with you.
Thank you.
We'll certainly keep in touch. Thanks for joining Gary's podcast.
Excellent. Thank you for having me.